I call this meeting of the Davenport Community School District Board of Education to order. May we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now move to board priorities and our mission vision statement. Director Potts, would you please read the board priorities?
Priorities. The Davenport School Board establishes the following priorities to ensure the academic success of all students. Provide leadership and direction to improve the overall learning environment in our classrooms, schools, and district, including the health, safety, security, and happiness of students and staff. Direct and support actions, programs, and activities which reduce the impacts of poverty on our students, their families, and our community.
Thank you very much. Director Gordon, could I ask you to read the mission and vision statements?
Mission statement: enhance each student's abilities by providing a quality education enriched by our diverse community. Vision statement: education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Thank you very much. Superintendent Sneckloff, could you please read our goals, please?
Tonight, we're going to have an emphasis on goal number 3, the expectation of the board that the district finance issues are resolved and staff will continue to keep the district in compliance with all state and reporting mandates.
Thank you very much. I will also turn this over to you for recognition.
Recognition, that's right. So Josh, if you wouldn't mind coming up, we've had one of our staff members who we're incredibly proud of receive an honor. And so I'll have Josh speak about this honor. We're incredibly proud. This person works so hard for our district, closing gaps and tearing down barriers and building bridges for kids across our district. So thank you, Josh.
Hi, thank you. I thought TJ was going to steal everything I had to say for a moment there, but we're good. So Connie Dobbles, standing next to me, is our Food and Nutrition Services Director here for the school district. She's been recognized as the Regional Director of the Year for as the National Association of Food and Nutrition Services. So, I mean, this is a pretty big deal. Connie's pretty outgoing, and she likes to involve her staff in a lot of different things that are fun and serves. I mean, I obviously see a lot of kids. She takes this position to heart and really believes in training and getting around and talking to people in buildings, and believes in feeding the kids, which is the number one thing. If you ever talk to her about this, she'll tell you that all else, she's feeding the kids. If nothing else is going to happen, they're getting breakfast, they're getting lunch, and if they need more food, they'll figure it out. But anyway, I'll introduce you to Connie Dobbles, if you want to say a few words.
Well, I'm just so honored to receive this award on behalf of the school district, and it's truly, it's a team award. It's not a Connie Dobbles award. I know my name's on the plaque, but it comes from the heart of every single one of our staff members, and it's truly a team, and they will tell you they are part of the team with me. We're making decisions together. We're moving forward together. So I just thank every single one of the food and nutrition staff members for being a part of our team and serving the kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie, for all that you do. We will not have presentation tonight, and Superintendent, can I turn it over to you for student board reports?
Before we do that, I would like to take a second to thank our school board members. May is School Board Appreciation Month, and our school board goes above and beyond. If President Gozo were here, he would say something along the lines of, "It's because of the huge paycheck that you guys get." Ha ha ha. But we do appreciate the work that you do. Very few people know and understand the time commitment that it takes to be a school board member, and you are appreciated. And if you are curious at why I am dressed like this, it's because we were grilling burgers before this. So please excuse the T-shirt at the meeting tonight. It got a little greasy with the burgers tonight, so please forgive that. But so again, board members, thank you for everything that you do, your commitment to the community. You are appreciated. And we have 2 board members online tonight. President Goza is traveling to Wichita, and Dr. Beck. So thank you. We'll go ahead and start right here.
Is it working? Wait. Okay, there we go. All right, so over at Central, 2 weeks ago we had signing day. So 15 of our seniors signed to colleges around the United States for their sports in George Marshall Gym. It was a great ceremony. I attended. Also, my other board member from Central, Adriana, who is not here tonight, she was also there. And it was a great time with our friends and family getting able to celebrate that moment of finally signing to a college for athletics. Coming towards the end of the school year, we've had a lot of passing of the torch moments, I guess. So the National Honor Society is currently searching for the next group of officers and has interviewed 13 current junior applicants for the secretary, service liaison, fundraising, social media, and monitor positions. Juniors have also started their campaigns for senior class officer and senior class president positions. In order to do that, they need to collect 20 signatures and make a short video speech on why they feel that they should be a part of the senior class officers. The senior class officers have also begun preparing for the first annual Blue Devil Cookout, which will be held next Friday. The event will be open to all grades and all staff and school board members to come and just enjoy sort of the end of the year and kind of boost morale for the school spirit. The senior class officers are also planning a dodgeball tournament for next week. We had one that was at the end of, right after spring break, and that was so popular, and we had such a good turnout that we want to do it again. It's backed by popular demand, and the money that we raise from that will go to Friendly House in the name of the senior class 2022. Also, we had prom, and that was a huge success. We sold all 500 tickets. Which hasn't happened in years, I've heard. So we were very proud of that effort. It was a great time. So yeah.
Okay. Last Friday at West, we had 2 Kona Ice trucks come at the end of the day as a celebration of Iowa assessments and a fundraiser for the senior picnic. So it was just kind of something fun for the staff and students to get to enjoy at the end of the school day. Last Wednesday was also our college signing day, so we had 11 seniors in athletics who got to sign and just receive some recognition for the hard work that they've put into these commitments in these schools. We also had our Senior 7 celebration, where any students who completed 7 out of the 10 achievements could attend, for example, 30 hours of volunteer work, went on a college visit, created a resume, things like that. And we had a really nice breakfast, and they got to go up and share with their classmates their college plans, things like that. On May 7th, we had the band, choir, and orchestra large group festival at Bettendorf, where they all received Division II ratings from judges. So we're very proud of them and all the hard work that they put into the music department. Going on at Walcott, the 8th grade family and consumer science students will be hosting a food truck face-off this Thursday for all 8th grade students to visit in the cafe, and they've opened it up to board members if they want to come as well. Miss Needham's 8th grade students have been planning for 2 weeks to prepare for this event. They discussed the plans necessary to create a small business, developing business names and logos, and discussing appropriate food to serve at the food truck setting. The 8th graders researched recipes to use, discussed budgeting, and determined grocery lists they needed to make for the products. They will set up the food truck pop-up Thursday around 3:15 and share their samples with the entire 8th grade class. Each visitor will then get to vote on their favorite truck. they have foods ranging from like acai bowls to cheeseburger sliders to stromboli and many more. So they're really excited for that. Also, this Sunday at West, we're doing our first ever dodgeball tournament, and the proceeds for that are going to the Kenya Water Project, as I've talked about before. And then another way, instead of paying to play, just besides monetary donations, are like physical, like granola bars, all the sort of things that students in our building need for the Falcon's Nest with Miss O'Hare, the social worker. And then our girls' JV golf is doing really good, and they had a win over North Scott last week. The West Track Stars, boys and girls, and then our robotics club attended the Bluegrass PBIS Bash last week, and that was awesome. And then 33 students from mostly the freshman and sophomore class visited Western Illinois University, got a tour of the campus. I personally went on that myself. It was super nice to see everything, see classrooms, professors, all that type of stuff. And then 35 students went with Mr. Verdon, Ms. Schwartzaloose to Davenport Public Works, and they got to learn about all the different things that Davenport as a city does to make our community function. And then tomorrow, Falcon Friends, as part of the Unified Special Olympics group, we're going on an outing to Leisure Lanes to go bowling with all of our special needs friends, and we're just going to have a good time with that. And then Bella Davis in the art program out West won People's Choice out of all the artworks I talked about last week in the whole Quad Cities, so she got the best votes. And then also right now we have 13 seals of biliteracy completed just at West, and I know there's a lot more happening this week as well. And that's it for me.
Alrighty, so over at North, we've had a few exciting things happening. So we also had our prom last weekend, or well, 2 weekends ago now, I guess. But we had the naming of our prom royalty. So those were King Noah Holton and Queen Timea Vesey, both of which are amazing students, very sweet people. The dual grad students this last weekend, so 2 days ago, were honored with their class of 2022 commencement ceremony over at the Tax Layer Center with Scott Community College. All of the students that were a part of the dual grad program, they all got an associate's in the arts, and then they're going to be graduating with their high school diplomas in June with the rest of their class. I was one of those students, and the commencement ceremony was very nice. We had some really good speakers, including a guy who works on all of like the hair in Hollywood. Like, he's a very cool guy. But he had some really good advice for all of the class, and everything just went off really smoothly. It was a good time had by all. And then the Wood drama program is very excited because they have their spring musical coming up really quickly. It seems like it's just come up so soon. But they are doing Willy Wonka, and so they are going to be having their show on May 26th. Everyone's invited to come. It's going to be super fun, super cute. I'm helping with the costume, so they're going to look great. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Isn't there one other really huge thing that happened to a school board member? One of our student school board members?
There is actually, yes. So I think it was just last week that it was announced that a scholarship called the Dooley Scholarship, which is a $20,000 scholarship for students going into the medical field, was announced to one of our board members, Matre. So congratulations, Matre. The future of our world will be healthier knowing that Matre is entering the medical profession. So that's wonderful.
Thank you, board members, student board members. It's always nice to hear what exciting news is going on at the schools. For the board reports, we'll start with Director Beck. She has some board reports.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry I couldn't be there tonight. I'm sad I missed the grill out. So I neglected to thank the principals of the buildings that I got to visit a couple weeks ago at my last board report. So I wanted to make sure I did that tonight. I I went with Superintendent Schneckloth to visit the schools out on our sort of western edge because I hadn't been there before. And I wanted to tell the principals how much I really appreciated them letting me pop in and kind of see what their schools look like. Miss Gott at Bluegrass, Mr. Garnica at Walcott K-8, and Miss Gilliland at Buffalo. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for letting me pop in with Superintendent Schneckloth and take a look at your wonderful schools. Thank you.
President Gosa, did you have any reports?
The only thing I got is myself and Vice President Hayes got to attend the Dooley Scholarship, and that was awesome. Awesome job on receiving that, and really dug your Adam Sandler swag.
Anyone else have a board report? Director Gordon?
Excuse me, this past week I was able to go watch the Central Choirs on, I think that was Wednesday night. It was a really busy week. And they are phenomenal. If you have not been to see Central Choirs, you need to go see them. They're astounding. One of their choirs has won some award of recognition, which the name is, I'm forgetting it at the moment, but all ages, all grades, all 4 different choirs were just incredible. And the work that their staff is doing with those kids is something out of this world, especially to come back. This was their first in-person concert in 2 years, well, more than 2 years. So I guess not their first. I don't remember. Anyway, also Thursday night, I went to the Creative Arts 8th grade spring gala and was able to witness a whole lot of theater presentations. It was all one thing, like theater and dance and singing. And then there was artwork in the hallway. And some of these kids I've watched grow from 6th grade all the way through now the end of 8th grade. And it's very impressive what's being done in that building as well. So we're doing really good things around here. Glad to have those opportunities.
Okay, as President Gosa said, we attended Montre's celebration, and we're happy for you. Congratulations again. Many of us attended the 30-40 year retirement dinner on Tuesday, and then some of us went back on Thursday to acknowledge the 10-20 year recognition. A big shout out again to Danielle Heller for all the work she did in preparing both of those events to make sure that they were successful. And the board would like to extend our deepest condolence to the Brown family in the passing of their loved one, Benward Brown, who was a para at West High School. Moving on to Communication 6.01 Open Forum. Brenda, were there any onlines? Okay. Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at a board meeting regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak, please fill out an open forum request and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The form is available in hard copy for in-person attendees or on the school board page of the district web page for those who want to participate virtually. Virtual participants must email their requests to Brenda T. at tbrin@davenportschools.org by 3 p.m. on the day of the board meeting. The board will not act on any issues presented during the open forum if it is not published as an agenda item. Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits action on any issues that are not on the agenda. I will set the amount of time to allow the individuals to speak. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order. To participate virtually, call 1-312 629-6799 and enter the meeting ID 990-0776-7364. We only have one open forum request, and that's from Chris Miller. When you come to the podium, please state your name and your address.
Good evening. My name is Chris Miller. My address is 27086 238th Street in LeClaire. I just thought tonight might be a good opportunity for me to voice one of my passions that I have. I'm a teacher in Davenport. I've taught at Jefferson my entire career. I started there. I student taught in '97 and haven't left there since. I've been on this facilities committee this past year, and I just thought this might be a good time to bring up one of my passions, because we're going to be seeing some changes within the district. And that issue or concern, however you want to phrase it, I guess, is a balanced calendar. And I want to make sure that a balanced calendar is not confused with a year-round calendar. There's some differences with that. And I was going to make like this presentation and do all this stuff, and I was like, just get up there and talk, Chris. That's all you need to do. My first passion when this started with me was working at Jefferson. When our summer breaks are 12 weeks long, 11, 12 weeks long, it just bothered me that many of our students are home for 11 or 12 weeks, and those kids aren't being kids. They're being adults. They're taking care of things within the house, and they're just doing more adult things. And Jefferson's not the only school in the same situation. And they're not going on as many family vacations. They're not reading. They're not doing as much schoolwork and stuff during that time. And I just really feel that 11 to 12 weeks is just a long time off for kids, even for adults. And back when this first started, it was my passion about this was for kids. And now it's kind of turned the other way, because now I think it's for teachers as well. If you know what a balanced calendar system is and how it works, just you're spreading that 11 to 12 week time throughout the whole school year. Like we used to do this back a long time ago at Jefferson, and it wasn't district wide. So it's one of the reasons I think it failed, because our kids were on a separate calendar than other kids. And if it's going to happen, it needs to be a district-wide initiative. And those 11 to 12 weeks, like we had a week off in the fall, and you'd have a week off in the spring. Some school districts that do this have 2 weeks off in the spring and 1 off in the fall, or they have 2 weeks in the fall, 1 in the spring. One of my friends teaches at UT, and they do 1 week at fall, 2 in the Christmas, and 2 at spring. They start earlier, obviously, with doing this. Another nice part, I think, is the quarter gets over by winter break. I think that's a good thing for that as well. But I just think now the shift for me is with teachers. We're trying to retain teachers in Davenport. You want teachers to stay here and be here. I think with this new facilities plan that's coming, if we incorporate this at that time would be good, because I just know that teacher burnout and just at that time, like if I would have done this in the fall in October, November, and I would have said, if you went around to teachers, say, how would you feel if you had a week off right now? Teachers would be jumping at it. If they had 2 weeks off this past spring break to gear up for the last quarter, I think they'd be geared up for it. I just think it's something that needs to happen. We've always heard, and other people in this room can testify to this too, we hear at our trainings, our meetings, we can't teach like we've always taught before. Things are different. We have to do something different. Well, one of the things that we're still doing the same from however many years ago is we're still doing the calendar the way it's been. And it just doesn't make sense anymore. It's something that we can control and we can change as a district. And I just think it's going to benefit students. I think it's going to benefit the staff as well. And like I said, if not even more nowadays, it's almost flipped for me. I think I'm almost more passionate for teachers now than I am kids. And I just, like I said, I just think something that we need to make a serious consideration to moving forward. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments, Chris. Now moving on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion?
Mr. President,
Director Potts.
I move the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Potts and second by Director Klein Jerome. Is there any discussion? I call for the vote. Director Potts?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Beck,
Yes.
President Gosa,
Yes.
Director Gordon,
Yes.
Director Poston,
Yes.
and my vote is yes, motion passed. I call for a motion for the approval of bills.
Madam Vice President,
Director Gordon,
I move that the board approve the following resolution. Resolved, all claims presented to the board having been duly certified as correct by the treasurer, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby audited and allowed as just claims and warrants drawn on the treasury for the several amounts. Further resolved, the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented for the periods of April 20th, 2022 to May 3rd, 2022, noting voided checks number 378376, incorrect amount, and number 378423, incorrect vendor.
Second.
it's moved by Director Gordon and second by Director Poston. Is there any discussion? Seeing as none, I'll call for the vote. Director Gordon,
Yes.
Director Poston,
Yes.
Director Beck,
Yes.
President Gosa,
Yes.
Director Klein-Jerome,
Yes.
Director Potts,
Yes.
and my vote is yes, motion passed. Move on to the superintendent's report.
None at this time.
Committee reports. The data wall, Superintendent Sneckloff will discuss.
Thank you. So, Gary Sloat's got some options for us that will potentially be on this wall that will be multifaceted, which will allow us to display data, which will allow us to enhance presentations, pictures that will be solely for the purpose of this boardroom. And also, we're starting to narrow down what the data points are. So our next meeting will begin to look at the technology that can be displayed. And then as we round up the end of the year, we have a team of people that are working on a growing excellence conference that's going to start the end of the year and start the year off, which will be heavily focused on the district's plan, the data, which we intend to project. So the content is coming along and the how it's presented is coming along as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Finance Committee?
We'll have our next meeting next Thursday.
Thank you. The legislative advocacy?
No report at this time.
ILSIAC?
We are scheduled to have a meeting tomorrow, but it has been rescheduled at the date to be determined. So nothing new to report at this moment.
Thank you. Long Range Facility Planning?
We're having a presentation this evening as part of our board agenda.
Policy Committee?
We will be sharing policies later on in the agenda.
Actually, one more update. We discussed what to do with policy 100, and we're working towards finding a date to workshop that in June.
Okay, thank you all for your reports, and we look forward to more information on our next meeting. Now we'll go into 11.01, items requiring action. May I have a motion for policy number 11.01, policy for board approval?
Madam Vice President,
Director Beck?
I move that the board approve the policies 802.04, 803.01, 804.02, 901, 902.01, 902.02, 902.03, 902.04, 903.01, 903.02, 903.03, 903.04, 903.05, 905.01, 905.02, 905.3, and 907 as written.
Thank you very much for that. May I have a second? Been moved by Director Beck and second by Director Gordon. Is there any discussion? Seeing as none, I'll call for the vote. Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Gordon,
Yes.
President Gosa,
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome,
Yes.
Director Poston,
Yes.
Director Potts,
Yes.
and my vote is yes. Motion pass. Moving on to 11.01, food and nutrition. May I have a motion?
Madam President?
Vice President? Okay, go ahead, Bruce.
Director Potts,
You win.
I move the board approve a contract for food and nutrition software for all major components related to the child nutrition program to EMS LINQ LLC in the amount of $42,180.
may I have a second? Okay, we got it this time. Motion made by Director Potts, second by Director Klein Jerome. Any discussion? Seeing as none, I'll call for the vote. Director Potts?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
President Gosa?
Yes.
Director Poston?
Yes.
Director Gordon?
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion pass. Next item is 11.03, the North High School gym roof repair project. May I have a motion? Director-
I move the board approve the plans and specifications for the North High Gym roof repair project as shown in the 95% plans and specifications.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Director Klein Jerome, second by Director Poston. Any discussion? Seeing as none, I'll call for the vote. Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Poston?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
President Gosa?
Yes.
Director Potts?
Yes.
Director Gordon?
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion pass. Item number 11.04, Davenport Learning Center roof repair. I call for a motion.
I move the board approve the plans and specifications for the Davenport Learning Center roof replacement project as shown in the 95% plans and specifications.
Have a second? Moved by Director Klein Jerome, second by Director Potts. Any discussion? Call for the vote. Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Potts?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
President Gosa?
Yes.
Director Poston?
Yes.
Director Gordon?
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Motion pass. We'll move on to item number 11.05, van and delivery truck purchase. May I have a motion?
Madam Vice President,
Director Gordon?
I move that the board approve the Director of Operations and CFO to spend ESSER and PEPAL and FNS funds to purchase the vehicles listed above without coming back to the board for discussion and action after prices are shared. They will not exceed the spending of $100,000. They will get 3 local bids for each vehicle and compare state pricing where available, and they will update the board with results on a Friday report.
Thank you. Thank you. You're on that, Director Potts. Is there any discussion? Seeing as none, I'll call for the vote. Director Gordon?
Yes.
Director Potts?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
President Gosa?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Poston?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion pass. I'll turn it over to Superintendent Sneckloff to go for our first discussion item of long-range facility planning recommendation.
Thank you very much. We have a John from Ray Architects with us today, and Josh are going to lead our discussion. Today we have worked tirelessly, I would say, on bringing a recommendation to the school board today, and our committee members were proud and honored to come and share with you. So, Josh, I'll turn it over to you to kind of, John, I'll turn it over to you to kind of get us going here.
If I can just start off by saying this group's worked very hard to come to these conclusions over a long period of time. So I hope you guys feel the information is helpful and moves the district in the right direction for many years to come. So, John?
Okay, so I have some setup stuff, which is just a little bit of recap, and I'm going to blast through my portion kind of quick because the goal is to kind of set the ball on the tee and let the rest of the committee drive it down the fairway. And really what we're hoping to do is get through some background information so that the committee members can give you a better sense of what has transpired and what's driven their recommendation. And really that will become their place to handle the discussion Q&A towards the end. So if we want to jump forward, that's kind of the overall schedule. I will take less than 45 minutes for my portion. So so past presentations, real quick, just want to talk through where we've been so we can jump ahead. We started with an enrollment study. This broke the school district down to 87 neighborhoods within the district boundaries. The purpose of this was to get a general sense of the direction of the community as it relates to the school district. What we have found is that there is some general trend with the district. This was done through working with community leaders, community members, realtors, getting a sense of where the district was going. One more slide. So in general, City of Davenport is maintaining a strong citizenship count. So the city is stable. However, there is a projected decline within the district that is in the 750 student range over the next 10 years. So that is one critical piece of information that we found. We also studied building capacity. So it's critical to understand if there's a general trend for a rise or decline within a district, we want to know how does this also overlay with building capacity. In general, what we have found is within the district, there has been a general decline over the last decade or more. So there has been a loss of enrolled number of students within the district. What becomes critical is that we understand what that means for the buildings. And so we have found that all buildings in total, elementary through high school level, there is a capacity of 3,000 to 5,600 students, additional seats available within your buildings. What we find is that when there's capacity within the building, staff in the building tends to use it for purposes that help. However, that is capacity that could serve additional class sizes in the building if there was a need, but with a decline in population and a capacity excess within the district, that leads to questions about the facilities. The other piece that we've done in background is a full facility study. This was a review of all facilities throughout the district, education buildings, not non-education buildings. This was a comprehensive study. The slide here says there's over 600 pages. I think it's over 700. It is in Josh's hands in its final form. Josh is doing a review of that currently so that we can
get that packaged up for the rest of the board. This includes a general snapshot assessment page for each building. That's probably going to be the one that most board members can easily go to and get a general sense of a building's condition. However, if you really want to know, you can read information about roofs, ADA, windows, building envelope, floors, ceilings, site, MEP items, which is mechanical, electrical, plumbing. It is very detailed and it's very lengthy. That is available in a PDF format. So that brings us to the FMPC, Facilities Master Plan Committee. This is a group of community and school district members who have worked tirelessly. And when I say tirelessly, I think our meetings were well over 2 hours each time we met. The group was very involved in dialogue. The committee was built of representatives of each building throughout the school district. Some members represented multiple buildings, as they might have students enrolled at an elementary, middle, and or high school. And so we had both parent and staff representation on the committee, which gave a well-rounded approach when considering how do we look at our districts. So in start, there was a general trend that we needed to figure out a pathway. This started with 17 K through 8 pathways. These were developed by the Bray and district team to decide if these were tangible routes that we could go, with the general goal that we need to solve a problem of what to do with the quantity of buildings and the grade level arrangement within the district. So real quick, just the schedule. I will actually come back to this in greater detail. So essentially, this is a really long process. We're expecting this to have been a 2-year process by the time we get to a general recommendation for the board for a solution. This is just one piece of the puzzle, if we want to click forward. So really, the meat of this schedule is that the Facility Master Plan group had 8 meetings. There were over 50 committee members. Collectively, they put in 800 hours worth of work. There has been an initial presentation to the board. If you recall, we kind of covered process to date. And what has transpired is a general sense of recommendation. So I'm going to kind of talk us through the next pieces of what that is. But first, the tag team did some video just to kind of illustrate what one of these events might look like. There is no sound. These and now a quick reset. So as you can tell, each session was a facilitated discussion. There were topics of agenda that were presented during the meeting with breakout sessions by the committee members. They worked on considering what the implications of those topics were, presented feedback. The group worked towards consensus on what was happening at any particular point in the session. All of the background for what happened through these meetings is on the district website. So this is background information about the committee, support material, which is all the studies that have been presented previously. There's information about the team, what their charges, their norms, meeting dates, agendas, presentations, and summaries from each of the meetings can be found on the website. So where are we in terms of the bigger picture process? We're about halfway through. The FMPC process was really something that happened up through this early spring, and that was in concert with the needs verification, the enrollment projections, the facility study, and the capacity analysis. So where are we at now? We're at a point where there is a general pathway. There is not a decision that would be made this evening. However, it's information for the board to consider for when a decision will need to be made. We can move forward. So the recommendation is essentially we've moved from 17 pathways to 2 general pathways. The committee was charged with 2 really overall highlights which needed to drive what the recommendation encompassed. What is the best grade configuration and number of school building transitions and pathway experience for our students? And when we say school building transitions, that's if you think elementary, middle, high school, each time you change to a different building, that is a transition. Second, what is the best path forward to right-size the quantity of school buildings and align with the current and projected student enrollments? So we can move forward. We can jump forward. That's okay. So with that, the group arrived at 2 pathways. We were wanting to be very diligent that this was an agreed upon response. So a survey was sent back out to all 60 committee members. 65% return rate on the survey was achieved, which helped us measure that these were the 2 correct pathways. We can jump forward. There is some data just to illustrate what that feedback was. Essentially, the leading and second preference was what we call a pathway 3A and 2B. We'll explain what those are in just a moment. But the general thought is to make sure the board understands that the committee was as well in consensus with one another as possible. So we can jump forward. So some of the considerations to get to this recommendation was just criteria such as what is the potential to enhance educational opportunities at any grade level throughout the student experience. The number of school transitions was a critical component for the committee when considering the moves that they are going to recommend. There was consideration such as 5th through 8th grade configuration. If there was a 5th through 8th single building, that those would have a separated experience, meaning 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th would have a non-budded experience, but sharing in the same resources throughout the building. Impact on busing is a consideration. Predictability of student experience. So that student, when enrolling in elementary school, knows their pathway through to high school. So that experience is set and there's not confusion about where their transitions happen. Duration of student experience in school. So how long that student is in each building has an impact on their experience in that building. So the longer a student might be in middle school can improve their experience and their educational aptitude while in that building. The total school enrollment is a critical factor because that affects the right sizing of the district, and then how grade configurations can be adapted and supported to respond to our less densely populated areas is also a factor. So just jumping forward, there's some additional criteria, neighborhood impact, focus on early education, that duration as it relates to the staff. Staff having a longer experience of interaction with students is good for their development. Transition years, 6th grade, 8th grade, have high level of impact on a student's aptitude towards staying enrolled in school for the duration, and so that was a critical factor. Separating out haves and have-nots to balance the district is hugely important. So getting more equity throughout the district was a consideration being made. That balance creates opportunities for access to programs, funding, better environment, and access to different levels of instruction. Other important factors were both student-related in terms of family retention for enrollment in the district and staff recruitment. And then, in addition, fewer buildings with more sections is better for staff and curriculum because it provides more opportunities for collaboration, better ability to balance class sizes when we get bubble years or fluctuations in enrollment, and an improved ability to cover class when a teacher's out. When we have 2-section buildings, if one instructor's out, there's only one instructor left to cover. So what are the pathways? Those pathways were labeled as 3A and 2B. 3A is a K-4 elementary school and a 5-8 middle school. There would be a total reduction in the number of elementary schools from 17 to 12. And then we would have 6 intermediate schools. The elementaries would have approximately 5 sections or 5 classes per grade level for a target of 550 students each, and the intermediates would have 836 students. Pathway 2B is similar, slightly different. It would be a K through 5 elementary building, which would reduce from 17 elementaries to 15. These would be 4 grade class levels or classes per grade level. So 4 track elementary schools at 530 students per grade. And then we would have 6th through 8th middle schools, and we would have 5 at 760 students each. In looking at the high schools, the committee would recommend that the 3 primary high schools and the single alternative high school would remain as currently configured. So we would have 4 high schools as we currently do. So with that, I've given you a lot of background. I think what we would like to do is kind of hand the mics over to the committee members and let them kind of talk about their experience, any thoughts they have, and that can organically then move into Q&A. So anybody that wants to go?
All right, so my name is Toby Honeymiller, and I want to thank the board and the district for the opportunity to be on a planning committee to have some input. This was a piece of the puzzle that was missing several years ago when this challenge was kind of first brought up. It's a difficult process, difficult place to be in, when faced with closing any buildings and how that affects any parent or child within the school district. And I think, as John said, there was a lot of time by the committee to really talk through the pros and cons of some of the pathways and try to develop the 2 that were discussed. I think important to go along with the 2 pathways are all of the considerations that John spoke about, because that's where a lot of the discussion took place in our meetings. Class sizes, trying to get down to a manageable class size for the students. How long is a reasonable bus route in a neighborhood school feel like? Those are all of the things that really go into what the plan needs to look like as we meld what we were tasked to do, which is kind of start with a clean slate, and then now meld that with the existing building and property configuration that are within the school district and how to marry those up. I think we have, I represent kind of from the parent perspective, and I was blown away by the passion of the teachers and how much they care about our students. And I think when you look at where we are financially as a district, there's only one way to go up, or one way to go, and that's up, sorry. And to really paint a broad picture of what the positive goals are of, there are gonna be some changes, and it's gonna impact some people, but having a really solid positive future of how this is gonna benefit by spreading the community's resources more evenly across the district and giving better educational opportunities and hopefully better facilities for our students to sit in. We looked through some of the buildings and they're in pretty rough shape. And so, as a part of this plan and the implementation, are there opportunities to build new buildings next to existing ones that can meet the needs of the future, the next 100 years? I think are some really cool opportunities. And then through the implementation process, really recommending transparency and why decisions are being made and communicate those to the public before things are made. The rumor mill will run rampant during these times, and you hate to lose passionate teachers because they don't know what is going to happen. And so sharing that information and engaging people along the way, I think will hopefully help bring that stability that the school district needs. So those are my perspectives. So if someone else wants to share?
He did an excellent job of summing all that up for you guys. And I just think most people know what part of the community they are, whether they're a parent, teacher, community member. I just think most people know. Maybe. There we go. Now we're green. So anyway, I just think we maybe that's a little better, but we just know, we recognize we have to do something different. What we've been doing just hasn't quite been functioning at the level that we want it to be, and I think it's been referenced to already, but our facilities are in need. I mean, if we have the money, we're going to fix it, right? I mean, if we had the money, we would do it. And I know that's going to be a tough task to decide all this stuff in the future. And, I personally, I've only lived in the elementary world, seeing some of the middle schools and some of the other elementary schools was nice to see, because even some of the nicer schools, there's things that need to be done as well. But I just think, I just have this vision in mind of new facilities, whether it's something being built or, remodeling things. And obviously, if you change these pathways, something's going to have to change, because you don't have enough middle schools to meet the needs of that right now in Davenport. Something's going to have to change just facility-wise within that as well. So, once again, I think he did a great job of explaining to this. I know teachers are now more aware of this. We've been talking about it a little bit within our staff and stuff too, and I think they're ready for a change too. I really think that if we don't change it, and I don't think we have to change it drastically, or you have to change it drastically, but if we don't make some sort of significant change, then I think people are going to be like, that's what we've done before. So, and I think this is just an opportunity for that to happen district-wide.
Well, I'll just speak also as a parent, and I've had the privilege of being a parent of students at the high school level and the intermediate level and the elementary level in Davenport, and I'm a really big fan of all of the schools that my kids have attended, and agree that the staff and the faculty are outstanding at every school that I've been involved with, and so I'm very thankful for all of that. And then I would always also just emphasize, for my experience on this committee, was I really learned a lot. And there were things that, once you do understand it, it makes total sense. But if you're not working in the schools and you're not, in a decision-making position, there are just a lot of things that you would never even think about. So, for example, when you said that we've got to make a change, right? Because we can't keep, well, there are probably a lot of people who will learn about whatever decision is made, and it will not be clear to them or obvious that a change is needed. So to the extent that a change is needed, I think, really investing in how we communicate about why changes are needed, what things are unsustainable in the current setup, right? And then when we are talking about things that are going to involve like a different school configuration after all the changes are made, really investing in the communication as to why this will put us in a stronger position. So there are things about the way facilities are arranged and the way if you change the amount of students that a building can accommodate, and therefore you add more sections of a grade, for example, that opens up all kinds of new possibilities for the way that the staff are able to accommodate the needs of the school. And having all those things explained to me, it made a lot of sense. But honestly, I really had never thought about some of the things that I learned. And so I just would want us to not make any assumptions that like members of the community just automatically understand these things, because we're all well-intentioned, we're all intelligent people, and just a little bit of effort goes a long way making sure people understand, what are the stakes and what are the benefits of making whatever change is going to be made. So.
Hi, I'm Sarah McGlynn, and I'm here representing part of the staff perspective of this committee as I'm running out of voice at a super opportune time in the school year. And I'm a special education teacher at Monroe Elementary, and I have taught, I'm currently teaching K-6, but I've also taught in the middle schools and in the gen ed elementary experience. So came from lots of different perspectives, and I'm not sure how specific you would like us to get as far as our experiences go or our thoughts on proposals, but I'm happy to answer any of the questions that you might have. But just to say that this whole experience, I think, is kind of like our golden ticket as a district to really create and effect some change going forward. And it seems like a real awesome opportunity to actually become the district of distinction that we're touting we are, and to do something a little bit different than our neighboring school districts. I mean, I lean heavier towards one pathway than the other, but I like the opportunity that there would be for multiple sections of every grade level in all of the elementary buildings. That's been critical. That was fortunately how my gen ed teaching experience. I was in we had 4 sections at the time, but with enrollment we have decreased now. Most of our buildings 2 sections, and that's rough. The same number of kids there are being taught by less humans, and the needs have never been higher than they are this year. And so looking at that going forward and attempting to close gaps from post-pandemic effects, then I think the higher level of collaboration and the more staff sharing the same load is huge, is a game changing for our profession. It's a game changer for the kids, the social emotional needs that they have, the academic needs that they have. If you can spread that out and you can get the collaboration from 4 or 5 staff at a time instead of just your neighbor or your one counterpart, that's a huge difference. I think the idea of having a 5-8 building has some really cool potentials for collaborations with the 5-6 kind of being an awesome team together, and the 7-8, and then there being some like leadership opportunities in there potentially for like your student senates and things like that as the kids have gotten older. And again, as we know that the drive for our early literacy is huge, the number of resources and things that you could put in an elementary building where the focus is on K-4 is exciting for me. but we're happy to answer any of the questions that you guys might have about our process or questions that came up during the presentation, if there was any other things that you'd like to know.
All right, I'll go next. I'm Cassandra, and I'm a parent. Next year, I'm going to have 5 kids in the school district. My youngest is going to be in kindergarten. So I'll be having 2 kids in elementary at Hayes, 1 at Smart, and 2 in high school. So when we're talking about all these grade configurations, it's really hitting my household really big. But as a parent, one of the biggest things that's also brought a concern, because I'm also PTO president at Smart, and so I've gotten to hear things at our meetings from the principal, is I would like to see a district that is not separated by have and have-nots. And that would be more of like, certain schools are on like the low income spectrum, so they get more grants, they get more staff that's available. And I would just like to see that all over the school district so that every kid can get the same opportunities as everybody else. But also, I also went to one more than the other. As far as these grade configurations, I'm a big believer that, sometimes we make changes and we don't want history to repeat itself, and change is not always a bad thing, and it could be something positive to look forward to. But this open discussion and just hearing about everything has been phenomenal.
I can't be the only one not to talk. I am Christy Toft, and I kind of represent the teachers. I'm at Wood, and then I have a 3-year-old at home, so potentially a parent. And so starting to think about that hat as not just the teacher hat, I get excited for what this district will have to offer my child when he begins school. And I don't want him to be shy of any opportunity, and I will do whatever it takes to make sure my child has opportunities. And I really hope that remains here in this district. And like we've all said, this is a great golden ticket for our district to really put its mark on the map for something positive, for change, to grow excellence. And this is our chance. I'm really happy to say from my experience on this committee that we are thinking more about that middle level. I live, breathe, and love junior high, and 7th and 8th grade is tough. And so to incorporate 6th and even possibly 5th into that mix will give us a good opportunity to help kids learn independence and become successful in high school, because that's what we're all about, middle school. So I just don't forget about the middle level. The middle child that's forgotten about. But anyways, it's been a great opportunity. I've met some great colleagues, some friends on this committee. The parents have been wonderful and eye-opening just to hear all the perspectives, and all the discussion has been very beneficial from the teacher hat, and then things thinking about as a parent now. So that's what I got.
Something else I think that for you guys to think about as going through this too is, I think that if we right size this and we do this the correct way, it's also going to impact. We talked about how long a kid's at that building, but I think it's also going to help keep those kids in that building. One of the things that I mentioned to the whole committee was we had a student that moved into Jefferson. She was like 4th grader, and it was her 7th school in Davenport. And I think if we can eliminate that part, if we get that part right too, then that would be eliminated or reduced. So that kind of situation doesn't happen as often as well. I think it's a huge benefit of this as well.
So you've heard from a handful of people here at the table, and you can tell that they're passionate and that they have invested a lot in this experience. And so there is a lot more that's beneath all the comments that you've heard here. I think this is a prudent time. I know it's a lot to digest when you're hearing this kind of like this, but I think it's a really good time maybe to just, if you have questions, thoughts, comments, let's open it up for some Q&A. And I think the other thing is, just as a facilitator of this process, I would just like to extend my appreciation towards the commitment that the committee is invested. This is a big ask for people, to get them to sacrifice several hours a night, several weeks out of each month. And so that is a commitment that is not easily stuck with, and these are only a fraction of the people that stuck through this process. And so it's with great appreciation that they're sitting here tonight. So I will open up the floor for your questions and comments.
Director Beck?
Thank you. I actually have two questions and a comment. First of all, thank you all to the committee for your time commitment on this. I really appreciate it. I know we all really appreciate it, and the work that you put into it. So I guess a couple of questions. So the first one is, you guys showed sort of a list of things to think about when you were evaluating the pathways, right? Did you get a similar list of that was sort of like a pros of this pathway? Was there a list of cons of this pathway too? And I don't know who wants to answer that. Anybody can.
Yeah, we had a list of pros and cons for all the pathways. It came from, I don't know the administration team. We got that from the administration team. They were kind of they had a presentation of the pathways, and they gave us pros and cons of each of the pathways.
Okay, good. So you were able to sort of evaluate it on both sides of the coin then. Okay.
Correct.
And then my other question, this is probably more for the facilitators and the administration. Is there like psychology or educational research underpinning these groupings? How were these kind of settled on?
Well, not an education professional. I would say that there is data out there to support a pathway from any one of the 17. What matters most is that the pathway fits the goals that the district and its community is looking for. What we have found is that you can find a great number of pieces of information to support or reject any pathway that's considered.
Okay, thank you so much. And I really like the phrase that you all have used, golden ticket. I think that's a fantastic phrase. I'm excited, looking forward to seeing what we can do with this. Thank you again.
President Gosa, did you have any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time. I want to thank the committee for all their hard work, and there's a lot of different variables and factors you have to take into account. So I appreciate you all working on this.
Questions from Director Kleindrome?
Was preschool considered at all when looking at this plan? And so from what you presented to us, it was to not include it in a building, or?
So preschool would occur throughout the district. The general intent is once we know how few elementaries this gets reduced to, it becomes an easier answer of where preschool can happen. So that's part of the programming of the solutions. But yes, it is a component for a pathway. Because there is currently children's villages and preschool in a variety of buildings, it became a little bit of a wild card to try to wrestle with, but that will be a part of the solution.
And my second question is, when you talk about 17 elementaries going to 12, or the second one was 5 intermediates, where do you put Walcott School? Is it an elementary and an intermediate, or is it just considered separately because it's a K-8 building?
It's a bit of an anomaly because it is a K-8 building. And so one of the things that you as a board will have to consider moving forward is what is the future of that building as it relates to the rest of the pathway. And so is it that it would stay as a K-8, or would it change to align with the pathway configuration for the other buildings? And so that is a future consideration that will be brought to you.
Thank you.
Director Poston?
Again, like everyone else has said, thank you so much for your time. spending on this project. I was able to sit in on a number of your meetings just to observe, and I was just so impressed with the dialogue and the dedication. I too was questioning as far as the preschool. So is there a scenario, depending on which pathway that we might go, that there could be preschool in every elementary?
That could be a possibility, yes.
Okay. And then my other question is from Bray Architects, what other data will you be presenting to us? I know you've been looking at buildings and studying the buildings and the structures and everything like that, but what other data will be presented to the board?
So that's kind of the wrap up of this, but the real question is, how do you take this and get to something that's a decision factor? And that is, our team is looking at applying the pathways to the existing facilities and properties within the district. And so using the capacity data, the facility information, enrollment information, and about a dozen other key factors, we will figure out ways that these two pathways could be implemented within the district. When we come back to meet again, it will be to provide that data to help you better understand if one pathway is a better solution for the district than another, and that will help you in making the decision of pathway 3A or 2B.
Thank you.
Okay, that was my concern as well, how the pre-K would go with some of them being in the schools right now. Would that remain? So I guess that's something that we'll have to wait to see what happens with it. But one thing I can say is I like the increase of the units of each grade level. That'll make a huge difference and allow for a lot of change. If there's nothing else, I do want to thank, or I'm sorry, student board members. Bree?
I just want to say thank you guys for all your hard work. That's a lot of brain power and a lot of thinking of a whole bunch of different situations, just laying all the cards out there. I just have a couple of comments and questions. I think it's awesome to have like a whole bunch of sections elementary school. I know when I went, there was only like 2, max 3 for like first grade. So I think that's awesome to include like collaboration among the teachers, the students, and then more diversity in buildings, obviously. And then I just have a question about the high school. Since I'm in high school, I just want to know. So the 3 main, like Northwest, Central, like how it is now, and then the alternative, would there be a need through like a K through 12 alternative, or are we just going to keep that at the high school?
So those are more of a continuum of services at that point. And so that is something that we will be continuing to develop as we move forward.
I'll just say about the high school part, I thought it was just super interesting. When we got to the high school part, it was very clear that people were very passionate about West, very passionate about Central, very passionate about North. Like, to me, it was pretty obvious, like, no change was going to happen, especially after walking through the facilities too, seeing all the histories and the trophies and stuff. I mean, I was like, this is not going to go anywhere besides what it is. I thought that was pretty obvious because those traditions would be hard to close one of those for sure.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I am good for the 3. It's just I question, just because I know we have like alternative services. I don't know the whole like legal and educational standpoint of it, but I know we have like alternative things like in West High School, like special ed, and then other services. I don't know the proper names for them, but is there like a need through a 9 through 12 like whole other facility where it's only like holding under 400 people, or is that something that could be like implemented into the 3 that are
again, those are things that are outside this recommendation here. It's kind of like preschool.
Yeah.
You know, all of those things will absolutely stop, halt, come to a grind. To get 50 to 60 people discussing about a pathway, you have to be able to sprinkle those things in next, and that's exactly the direction we're heading next. The continuum of service that you're talking about is a whole nother topic that needs to be addressed, and we, with our new director of equity and learning supports. That's their number one charge when they come in. So.
Director Beck.
Yeah, I just had one more question for the the committee members. I know a couple of you gave us a little bit of advice on sort of how to discuss this. If you had sort of one recommendation for how we can best share this with the community, what would it be? Like if you're talking to friends about it or other family members, what do you say? You know, if somebody comes up to you and says, I don't like change, or I'm worried about this, what would you guys recommend?
I think the biggest thing, what we've learned throughout this process, is just right sizing the district. I mean, you've heard Mr. Schneckloss say this and other things too. It's just our district needs to be right sized. It's just we have too many buildings for how many kids we have. And so I think just the right sizing the district is one of the key things you'll probably be discussing.
I think I would add to, obviously PR is not my forte, but I think if we're looking at, my inner educator says we need to know the why behind anything that we're doing, right? Anything I'm teaching, why do you need to know this? And how is this going to affect your life or impact your life going forward? And so I think that has to be like the foundation of your conversations. And so why are we right sizing the district? Why is this an issue? Why are we even having this committee? Why do we even have to have this conversation? I think starting with that basic understanding is critical. And then I think if we look at all of the opportunities that these changes could afford our students, as well as our staff and retention and all of the benefits, the pros that come with each of these, I think that's I guess, more optimistic or positive way of kind of addressing something. Change can definitely feel really difficult, but I think if you're looking at this as something that's exciting, it's an easier sell.
Superintendent Schneckloff.
So this is actually what our internal team and board team was discussing. What does it there's phases. What does it look like on the front of every phase? We're getting ready to enter this. We even talked about putting together videos because videos are highly digested by our community and our staff. We've also found a pattern that works for us to where information goes to the staff, then goes to the community, because that arms our staff with the understanding, and a very prominent spot on the website that refers back to all the steps along the way. So those are the ways that we are planning right now to communicate internally. And that was, as you heard, every single one of our community members said it's very important that you communicate, be transparent. And that's something that both Bruce and Dan say over and over again inside of our board committee. So those are the really important marks that we hit, and to where all of our members have all the information.
I agree. I piggyback what they both said, but then transparency as well. We don't want to have to go to all this work that we did and then kind of be blindsided by a completely different route. So I think that's huge. And, I always live by what's right is not always popular and what's popular is not always right, but just be transparent with what you're doing and where you're going with it.
Linda.
Director Parson.
Oh, one other question I have is how, going forward, how will this committee be included? Will this committee keep meeting and going through the data that's presented? So what's the follow through for the committee?
So the committee's charge was to arrive at a pathway recommendation for the district, and that does end in the recommendation to the board. So moving forward, we will have community forum events where this committee and anybody else in the community will be welcome to join. The responsibility of this committee wasn't to get to the solution phase. What really happens with the recommendation is we have to figure out how to implement it in a real facility situation. And that does require some hard decisions and some critical analysis that kind of extends to kind of what we do as a consultant team. We would encourage the committee to still participate in the community forum events that happen as we continue to move forward. And that is also critical to Director Beck's concern, which is how do we keep the messaging out there, which is we want to make sure that we're inviting the community as a whole to be a participant in this process. Prior to the question, I believe we had a comment here too, so I'm going to turn this right over here.
I would just emphasize like almost over communication. There's just information overload in the world as we know it right now, and these decisions are going to affect tens of thousands of people, and so if there's a good video, it needs to be shared and overshared and shared and just over and over and over again as much as humanly possible. And if there's a community forum and it's a priority to get a certain turnout, I mean, even setting goals, like if we want to have a community forum, asking the question, well, what is a target attendance for a community forum, and how are we going to really make it very likely that we will hit that target, and then, just communicate far more than you think you need to, because people have a hard time, consuming all the information that's important.
I was going to add too, it's really important to understand and be able to communicate the economics and the why, so people can understand, why these decisions are being made in a way that's, has enough information to show that it's been well thought out, and, there's solid justification for why this path forward is the best path forward, and making sure that people can understand that. It's a tough balancing situation, but the economics have to be there to show, like, why pick these buildings over another set of buildings. Maybe these require a lot more maintenance in the future, and there's a lot more cost that could be there. And I think there would be some appetite for people on the committee to continue to be involved going forward, to help be maybe a sounding board or something along the way to help prep for the public forums.
You stole those words. I was trying to think of how could I say that. You said that perfectly. Like, if you guys need a sounding board, I'm sure us people up here would be willing to soundboard with you.
On the macro schedule, it lists Friends of Davenport. What are the Friends of Davenport?
So the Friends of Davenport's a group of people that are, based off of the feedback that we got from this group, a much more diverse group of citizens, and also they represent a sector of Davenport. They're business owners, they're members of organizations, things that are alumni, so they kind of represent a different view as well, to give, because sometimes we get in as parents and educators into a thought space where we need to back out and think about the community as well. So it's another group of people who are very business savvy, who are deeply connected, and there are some people on that committee that are there to help us prevent some mistakes that we've made in the past. And so it's a group that we continue to use, very similar to this group, that we're going to continue to use for multiple issues across other issues.
Just to add, they're not a decision-making body. They're more of a facilitation group. So they're meant to be a first step of outreach to the community with the goal of just getting feedback by testing the water of saying, here's what we're talking about and what we're thinking. What do you think? And it really gives you some critical feedback, because they think at a head level and less at a heart level. Even though they're all passionate about the community, they're being tied to community organizations and businesses. They kind of approach it with a logic that helps provide really good feedback for consideration.
Director Poston.
I know this is kind of a big ask because this committee has put so much time into it, but kind of a follow-up to my earlier question is I would hope that you would, and I'm sure you will, stay involved and make sure that you continue to have input in this process as it proceeds. And again, thank you so much.
So next steps, we are, as I said, working on ways to implement the 2 pathway recommendations to facilities within the district. So our goal is to come back to the board to talk about the 2 pathways with information that will help you make a better informed decision on, is one pathway more suitable than another. This will be a difficult conversation because it does involve reduction of quantity of buildings, but it's going to be hard to right size our district without these hard conversations. So we want to support you with information to help in that decision-making process. In addition, we will be setting up community outreach events and a strategy for communication out to the community as a whole to help better communicate the decisions at hand and build support and information for the decisions that are to come.
Okay, thank you so much to each of you for investing your time and talents in this project, and we look forward to the next steps. Okay, before we do item number 12.02, we're going to take a 5-minute break. Okay, can we reassemble and get started again? Okay, we will begin now with item number 12.02, the Durham contract extension, and Josh Yermansky will facilitate that.
How you doing? We've been meeting with Durham here for a few months around doing a contract extension for a year only, and then looking at things going forward shortly. But in order for us to get something on the books for this next school year, we need to start talking to them a few months ago. So we started that process. Durham's proposing a 9.2% increase to us. That to cover price of gas increases, wage increases, cost of benefits, and a few other things. But I also brought the team here from Durham to talk to us about what we're going to do going forward, ways to improve. If you guys have any questions, we can answer those questions. To my right, I have Rick Klaus, the VP of Operations. To the right of him, we have Jen Andreas, the regional manager for the Iowa area, and Kathy Corbett is our local transportation director. So Kathy is the one that's right here on site every day of the week, here with me at making phone calls at 9 o'clock at night, talking about starting school buses, and at 4 in the morning doing the same thing. So this is kind of the Durham team. If you have any questions related to that, a little background, I've done a little checking about price increases and whether this feels normal from what people are seeing across the country and across the state. And right now it feels very good, but again, you guys are open to ask questions around that if you want to. So I'm opening up to any questions or discussions around the contract extension.
Director Beck, did you have any questions?
I guess my main question was what's being done to avoid the situation we had in January where we had to cancel school because of buses or lack thereof.
So I'm gonna defer some things that maybe Durham can answer a little better about things they know they look forward to doing for us down the road. I think they have some things they would like to tell you about and go from there.
Okay. I'm Rick Klaus, by the way. Thanks for having us here tonight. We appreciate your consideration. In January, we did have an unusual event to cancel school, which I believe the event in January was we had some people scheduled to be off, and then that morning we had 6 people call off, and we just weren't able to rearrange coverage that close to that morning to be able to determine which routes we could run differently and get all the kids to school on time. So that was really an unusual and unexpected event. But then there was a second, I think, circumstance maybe that you're referring to, and that was in early February, I think, where we did have a poor inspection with the state of Iowa on the bus fleet, and so there's really 2 components, I think, to answer your question about what we're doing to move forward and live up to your expectations, which we did not do this winter. One is part of this renewal agreement is to change our wage package for the drivers. There's been a national school bus driver shortage, really brought on by the pandemic. A lot of our retirees and moms were just not wanting to, be driving bus loads of kids around, and it's been really our biggest challenge for everyone in school busing is to have enough workers. So we do think that the wage package that we are going to negotiate with our union here in the next couple weeks gets us where we need to be in the market to have some more standby drivers, right? That's the key. When it comes to the bus fleet, we've been working on that quite a bit. Our plan is to bring in some new buses this year, which aren't really required under our lease agreement. We're going to bring in some late model buses from some other locations, 12 from here in Iowa that are newer buses than what we have running. And in the next week or so, we should have nailed down some other buses we're going to bring in. We call it cascade in from other states to provide a newer fleet, because the maintenance issues that we experience with the inspection are really cumulative from a lack of execution on our part of following our maintenance protocols. And we just feel like if there's been some neglect over time, that bringing in a refreshed set of buses to really lower the average age of your fleet will resolve that problem.
I believe you're targeting 8 years average for the bus fleet. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's our target is 8. The contract lease is 15-year max and 10-year average age, and right now we're looking at an 8-year average and probably much closer to an 11-year, maybe 12-year maximum age. So being comfortably below what's in our lease.
Thank you.
This might have to do with the driver shortage, but I feel like this spring, more than any other time, we've really been struggling getting buses, like for sports wise. Like this spring, we've been having to leave at like 1 o'clock for a 4 o'clock meet, maybe at Assumption. And then we find ourselves not knowing what to do or having to leave school early and missing out on academics. So I was just wondering if there was anything this spring that affected that as of in the fall, maybe.
You're spot on. It really does revolve around how many buses need to go out during route time, and then the number of drivers that we have. And the bus driver shortage is really the reason we've been unable to keep up like we have in the past, and with the sports trips. Yeah.
Director Parston.
Just fill us in a little bit as far as the maintenance on the buses. There was an issue as far as the inspections and getting behind in inspections. Did that put us in a shortage of buses at a certain time?
Right. There was a state inspection, which is a normal course of business. And during inspections, you can have really 3 outcomes for each individual vehicle. One is it passes. One is they found a slight defect that gives you 30 days to repair that defect. It could be something very minor. It could be a light bulb or a switch or something that the bus is still deemed by the state to be safe to operate. So they give you 30 days to fix it and certify that it's been fixed. And then there are buses that they deem to be unsafe and down them, where you can't fix them until they are certified and re-inspected. What happened this time was I think we had some change in personnel and some reporting responsibilities and roles and responsibilities. And with that 30-day inspection, you're allowed to have apply for a waiver to get some more time to complete those minor repairs. And that was not done on time. We got it in a day or 2 late. And that's what caused us to have to not run school the next day. There's really no excuse for it. I don't want to make any.
How many buses were down at any given time? I mean,
Well, we have a fleet. I mean, we are running. How many routes are we running right now? 74 routes. We have 108 buses. So we have way more buses than we really should have deployed. We had 20 buses that were sort of end of life and down already, that the state downed, which is proper, right? They were already set aside. So that was 20 of the 36 that were downed. We had, I think, 50 that needed the minor repairs, which is unusually high. So, generally speaking, you have a 10% spare factor of buses. So if you run 80 routes, you'd have 8 spares. You might have a couple extra to help with those conflicting trips that happen during route time. But that would be a typical requirement, is about a 10% spare. And as we heard in the previous presentation, the population has decreased over the last 10 years in the district. And, we used to run 100 routes here 10 years ago. So the busing has adjusted for the population changes to a degree. But the fleet hadn't been, I think, my own opinion, we had too many buses, way more than we needed, and they were neglected because we had so many extra.
Anyone else?
Could you guys fill them in about change of process around the maintenance of the buses and things like that? Things we're doing to check and balance to make sure that doesn't happen down the road.
So my name is Jenny Andrus. I'm the region manager for Durham for Iowa, and my counterpart on the maintenance side and I work very closely together. A couple of things we've done. One is we did some retraining with some of the individuals. We've added an additional technician to the staff just recently, a highly qualified individual. And then we've also, our oversight of the location has become much more granular. So I jump on a call to review the status of every single bus with my region maintenance manager and Kathy twice a week. And then our region maintenance manager meets with the maintenance team every single day. He touches base with them to see what buses are out of service, what parts are on order, when are those parts coming in, when's that bus going to be fixed. We also identified some buses that we're going to pull out of the location that we aren't going to repair, some of those out of service ones you were referring to. And so we've just done a lot of oversight at a micro level that wasn't happening before, to Rick's point about some shift in leadership at my level and within the shop itself. So, and then the other thing is, Rick kind of already mentioned this, but we're going to bring in some buses from another site that are already Iowa ready. Those range in age from 2015s up to 2021s. So a lot better quality bus. And we run those in another school district that I run. So I know about those assets. And then we're also exploring some other options to get some other buses in here, either from other states that would be compliant in Iowa, or whatever other options that we're looking at. We were just doing that this afternoon. So I don't know if that answered the question, Josh, where you were. Yep. Okay.
Okay, thank you for that information, Jen. I was going to ask you that. We're a huge board on accountability, and for that information being a day or two late, we were wondering what measures, well, I guess I could speak for the board, but what will we do to make sure that that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, from a DOE inspection standpoint, we missed a lot of communication. We should have communicated with Josh that same day. We should have communicated with TJ that same day. Whenever there's an inspection going on in my region, if I'm not able to physically be there, I am calling. Where are we at? How many? I already know how many we're going to inspect, but where are we at? How are we coming out? And that information should be shared with the administration the same day. there's no reason to hide it. That was not the intention. It was, from my investigation, an oversight and a learning opportunity, because we have to be transparent in our communication, and our biggest priority is getting the kids to school safely and on time, and that's what you expect of us, and that's what we're here to do. So I think there was just some communication that didn't happen when it should have, from an informational standpoint, and processes that weren't being followed previously.
Director Beck or Gosa, do either of you have anything to add?
I did see something in the memo about tracking or something like that, knowing where buses are. Could you guys explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so there's a tool that's available. It's called Bus Tracker. It tracks the bus, so it's like it's a GPS unit that's on the bus. Parents download an app. We give them, it's basically logged by the student ID. So the parent goes in, puts in their student's ID, it pulls up what bus they're assigned to, and then the parent can pull that up and see where the bus is. I get the question often, does it track if my student got on or off the bus? The Bus Tracker does not. We have technology that can do that, but the Bus Tracker is a tool that's already in place. It's no additional cost to the district or the parents. You just download an app. I use it personally with my own kids, especially on cold days, so I know if where the bus is at. And it also helps if the bus is running a couple minutes late, 5-10 minutes late, which to a parent in the morning feels like half hours for every minute. So it's very helpful. And I don't know if this district's used it in the past, but we're getting a lot of requests for it, and that's something we can implement into the next school year.
Director Gordon?
I have a follow-up question to that. So that seems to be for regular morning and afternoon routes. Is that something that could be communicated to coaches and, theater drama directors or whoever is taking trips, so that someone has that information? Hey, our bus is leaving the lot. It should be there at this time. Is that something that can be implemented as well?
That's a great question. We haven't used that tool specifically for that, because the way you get access to it is by your student's ID. So, but I'll take that away and do a little research on that for you.
President Gosa?
Thank you, Vice President Hayes. I have a few questions. First, I wanted to ask a clarifying question. You said, and I want to make sure I heard you right, that us not having school on that January event was due to lack of bus drivers not having inoperable buses. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. My next question is, obviously, you've all had issues with the maintenance on your buses. And you just said, you want our kiddos we expect our kids to arrive safe to school, but you all weren't following that. So my question is, when these things were going with the Department of Ed for the issues that were with your buses, and then obviously there's probably a follow-up, were things done as reported, or were things reported but weren't done?
There wasn't anything that was reported and not done. I think if I understand your question correctly, there were defects on the buses that were found and that had to be repaired, but no errors in reporting on our part.
Okay, just not getting the paperwork in on time. Correct?
I think first, not having the bus in the proper, maybe there was a light out, or if there was rust, it would be down, that kind of thing. That was what caused the need for the paperwork that was turned in late. So the first issue is really having the bus in the proper state of maintenance.
Okay. And then you've answered a few of my other questions. Some of the other board members had asked them. And then you all are asking us to consider like a 9 point something increase. What things are in place to make sure that us as a district, we're protected from these inaccuracies that obviously happened? And then my other question to that is, do you all, obviously you're here tonight, feel comfortable in asking for such a high increase after the way this school year has been handled?
Sure. Maybe I'll let Josh answer part of the first part of the question about how we're held accountable, because that's really a district function, which was implemented here in February. I can speak to it if you want, but it's really up to the administration to hold us accountable. There are contract clauses for penalties.
Yeah, the table that we utilized this year for our negotiations around liquidated damages, that table still applies. The follow up to this is I met with them just recently and let them know I'm going to be doing more random inspections of the buses, where I'm just going to call them and show up to the bus lot and we're going to take a walk around some buses. That's on my end. Is there another form? I think you're
No, I think
talking about
liquidated damages is where I was going with that you have done that. And, but the ultimate, accountability is, we have a year here to re-earn, less than a year really, to re-earn your trust, to continue with the contract in the future. And that's, if we don't perform, then we won't have the contract moving forward. So that's really the ultimate way of holding us accountable. And then I think the second part of your question was about, are we comfortable asking for a 9.5% increase? No, that's never a comfortable position to be in. I will say though that what we are asking, and we've shown the bridge to the administration, is there's more than 2% of that is a concession. So essentially our costs are going up, 11.5% or more, and we're absorbing, I think it's 2.3% of that as part of this offer to renew. So it's actually less than our actual cost increases that Josh had mentioned earlier.
Bree?
Of course, like a whole bunch of whoopsies happened and mistakes are always made and it's part of learning, but it seems that the district is kind of taking like two sort of hits. So obviously earlier this year, we've had a lot of issues with your services and the busing and all that, and that's obvious, like inflation and like shortages on employment everywhere is a thing, but then asking for like an increase of such an amount, and you said that only 2.3% of that was towards inflation-y type things or higher costs of your things that you use on a daily basis. So it's just confusing why we're asking 9% when there's only less than half of that is.
Yeah, so that I understand what the question is. We can't quite speak to the percentage of what is allocated to wages because we're in negotiations with the union. That makes it difficult to tell you exactly what portion goes to wages, which is a lot of it. But we just can't say that those figures exactly because we haven't landed on an agreement yet. And then the other piece there the general operating expenses is pretty much what we're conceding. So we're taking any expenses that, we're experiencing from a licensing standpoint, or what's that? Oh, parts. Yeah. Maintenance parts as well. We're absorbing some of that in a good faith effort to, try to continue moving forward with this relationship and improving it.
Okay, thank you for
You're welcome.
clarifying. I just wanted to make sure we weren't taking care of the oopsies that we didn't really have any.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
President Gosa.
This is my last one. I will say I myself am very disappointed in the services provided this year. Not only did the superintendent have to take time away from things that he is doing to meet with you all multiple times when he's charged with running the district as a whole and making sure things are getting done for our students, for early literacy and things like that. That's taking time away from that. So I'm very, very disappointed in that. It should not be that it gets so bad that the superintendent has to take time out to handle these issues. And then, it's great you all are here tonight, to discuss with us about this raise, but I would hope that in the future things are handled a lot better and the superintendent doesn't have to take time away from the education factions for our students.
I agree. It was a failure on our part, and we're sorry. We apologize.
Any additional questions or concerns? Thank you so much, Rick, for taking ownership on that. Josh, you have any more to add?
I just want to say thank you guys for all your questions.
Okay, thank you for coming. For item number 12.02, Superintendent Sneckloff will take this.
Tonight, Kim's going to kind of walk us through. We have Melissa Trimble and Ashley Schaefer from our Learning Results team. They're going to walk us through a proposed curriculum purchase that we have to enhance our foreign languages. So, Kim, I'll turn it over to you.
This works. Good evening, everyone. I am here on behalf of the Learning and Results Department with Ashley Schaefer, who is a world language content innovator, and Melissa Trimble, who is a world language specialist. Got that right. That are going to walk us through a request. They're presenting some information today, and then we'll ask you to vote for approval at the May 23rd meeting. So this is really just an opportunity to kind of update you on where the World Language Department is in relation to their curriculum materials and walk you through a request. So I'll give it to you, Ashley.
I hate these things. Yeah, sorry. Okay. First of all, thank you guys for this opportunity. This has been a long time coming, so I am thrilled to be here. I have some slides to try to walk you through.
It's that first attachment.
Yep, the first one. Here we go. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through where we're at, where we need to go for our kids, and then I have some slides for questions at the end. So throw them at me. Be as critical as you can if you need to, but hopefully I give you some clarity here. So Brenda, if you can. There we go. So first is our current reality. Here's what we offer in our district right now. We offer 4 years of French, 1 through 4, 4 years of Spanish, 1 through 4. Those are your basic Spanish classes. They fulfill your college exit requirement if you take all 4, or depending on what college you go to. We offer the Advanced Placement Spanish course that is certified by AP Central. Additional courses, just for the interest of clarity, that are not covered under this proposal are the Intermediate Spanish 1 and Intermediate Spanish 2. And when I say intermediate, I mean the dual credit class with Scott Community College, not a junior high class. Those are covered under separate. We're required by Scott to have certain texts and things like that. So they're not covered with here, but just so what we're talking about is just the French 1 through 4 and our AP Spanish tonight. So just starting you off with some goals of our world language department. Every student will demonstrate the ability to read, write, speak, and understand in the target language. And that's really the heart of our proposal here, is making sure that kids can read and write and speak and understand or listen in the target language, in French, in Spanish. Also, as you know, one of our goals, we're passionate about languages, we're passionate about people, right? So understanding the culture of every place in the world, understanding our culture, understanding other cultures, the language that the culture brings. So just so you have a heads up of where we're at. Brenda, next slide, please. Thank you. So current realities again, we do have a current Spanish text series. It was adopted in 2010. This was a Holt Reinhardt Winston published materials, and it is no longer in print. Holt Reinhardt Winston has been absorbed by another publisher, so that everything we have is unavailable to us. We have no electronic components. Our teacher components are the old school CDs, and I kid you not, transparency binders, which are fun. French is in a little bit better situation in the fact that it was adopted in 2012. But as you know, textbooks update. That version is out of print. Teachers have online access to teacher materials, but we do not have a student component for that. And when I say student component for these were physical workbooks purchased. Change in times, workbooks are no longer physical things. They are electronic interactive components. So we can't purchase, we can't replace, we can't replenish in any way any of the things we currently have. Our teachers they've been doing a phenomenal job piecemealing things, but we got to do better, right? So thank you. So what we're asking for in this proposal, it is a complete Spanish 1 through 4 and Spanish 1 through 4 and French 1 through 4 curriculum. And this curriculum is all encompassing. It addresses the speaking, the writing, the listening, and the reading in the target language. We are asking for physical textbooks for our students. We are also asking for a complete digital access component. It's again, instead of the physical workbooks that we've all had for years, it's an interactive digital component. Students have full access to auto-graded test assignments. Differentiation is really the key here too. With the digital access, if we have students that are struggling learners, we get those tutorials. We get the more broken down assessments. We have components for our advanced learners. We have more in-depth assignments. There's just a broader range with the digital component, which is why everyone's moving to it, right? And then again, we are asking for the same for our advanced placement or our AP Spanish, digital access plus our physical class sets of books. So more specifically, we have, and I really want to stress this part here, we're asking for Descubre level 1 and level 2 in Spanish TAMAS. This ask is a teacher ask. So 100%, I'm a teacher, okay? I'm not an administrator, I'm a teacher. Our team of teachers says we need stuff, we need materials, we don't have it. So it was very much a teacher ask. I said, okay, what do you want to see? And they shot me names, email, text, whatever. I want to see this book. I saw this book at a conference. We brought in samples. I think it was 7 different samples, and it was given to teachers before we even went to the admin and asked. Yeah.
Can I speak to this
Absolutely.
part a little bit?
Jump
Thank
in,
you.
yeah.
So this team of people went through the adoption cycle, and then in 2018 it stopped. And 2020, but it stopped previous as that. And then 2020, it stopped again. And so these materials have been needed desperately by our teachers. The process that they went through is we have a curriculum process. They went through it, and I was supposed to do this at the beginning, and I apologize. So I wanted the board to ensure that while this is coming to you at this time, it is something that has gone through the process. Our teachers have helped select these materials. And I want to say that there are 19 including you, foreign language teachers that have had their eyes on this. Is that accurate? Okay. And it's been stopped, I want to say, if not once, twice. First due to accreditation issues and the stopping of implementing, and then most recently the upkick in the pandemic. So that was my part in the presentation, and I forgot to do that in the beginning. But absolutely where we are today. And as you know, these are our part of our charge is to get our carryover dollars down, and this is a very appropriate usage of our carryover dollars. So I wanted to make sure that we're coming from a basis of that.
Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption.
No,
Ashley.
you're totally fine. This truly has been a 3.5, 4 year labor. It was definitely teacher driven. We said, hey, we want to review things. And I said, let's go. We called textbook companies. We got our samples and we narrowed it down. Every teacher had eyes and hands on them. They went from building teams, buildings, selected their top. We discussed as a department, as a district-wide department, and have gone over this. And then we asked. So it was more that whole, we're going to get what we want first, and then we're going to ask. So we've made the ask, and here's where we're at. So our ask is specifically for Spanish first. Descubre level 1 and 2. The publisher is Vista Higher Learning. This is who we've worked with before. They're amazing. It's for the digital access. We are going to split 2 books over 4 levels of Spanish. And if you want clarity on that, I can. That was also a district department level thing. Just teachers have gone back and forth. We've looked at what's best for kids. This is what we feel is best for our kids. AP, it is an AP Central approved book. And really the key here for our teachers was we are 100% vertically aligned. The fun fact in all of this is the book that we use for that Scott Community College class is also a Vista Higher Learning book. So 100%, the whole continuum they're vertically aligned already for us, in addition to all the amazing work that my teachers do to make this work for our kids. Can we go to the next one, please? Thank you. And then French, again, this is Vista Higher Learning as well. It's the D'accord level 1, 2, and 3. And we are actually, in this case, using 3 books to go across all 4 levels. Same thing, full digital access to teachers and students. And again, it's vertically aligns. There's also, this was not necessarily part of the decision. We have several teachers that are French Spanish combined. So looking at from the teacher perspective, I am one of them that are French Spanish. We make things just a little bit easier on teachers. These decisions were made completely independently of each other. French teachers made their choice, Spanish teachers made their choice, but as an added bonus, especially for someone like me, it's all one-stop shop, and it's great for us. So as TJ said, they are categorical funds, carryover funds. Just in interest of transparency, I put up there the amounts that we had figured out. The Title IV funds, I do want to stress that, when they told me, well, it had to be expanded of programming or differentiation, I was like, this is perfect for us because this program truly expands what we have 1,000 times over. So just an FYI for our intended outcomes, my department is always trying to do better. In 2 weeks, I'll be coming at you with the seal of biliteracy. That's one of the ways that we want to do better for our kids, right? So we want to address those areas where we maybe aren't as great. And maybe I should point out, this is a tool, right? Our teachers do all the work. We're teaching reading, writing, listening, speaking in Spanish, in French, but we're giving teachers the tools to do that better. We're giving students access to materials, to resources, to practices to do that better. So one of the ways, again, that Title IV, that expanding, we're addressing those student needs through that differentiation. Vertically aligned, again, this goes from Spanish 1 to college credit Spanish to AP Spanish, which makes it a beautiful, seamless transition for the students and the teachers. And I guess I already touched on that one out of order, sorry. But again, just giving teachers and students the tools to do the best that they can. We really want to see more kids with that seal of biliteracy. We want to see more kids in those dual credit, those AP classes, and just really taking this to the next level, because realistically, there's not a single career out there that language is going to hurt you. Language is an asset in any career. So that's kind of our thing is let's get the best tools we can, let's get them out there, and let's get our kids to achieve as high as we can. So. think, is that the last one? Yep. So I'm going to open it up to you guys for any questions that you have.
Director Colangelo.
What happened to German? Because we used to offer that. And have we ever considered expanding to other languages besides just Spanish and French?
So yes, there is always a talk, expand. I will let TJ handle some of this. I do know that we did have German, and there's multiple issues. There's enrollment, there's staffing, there's a lot of issues with that. So right now we are presenting on French and Spanish because that's what we have running currently. So TJ wants to.
We have to be careful. That's the agenda topic that we're talking about tonight is that. But I can put together that if you like.
But we don't offer German, so we don't need a curriculum for it?
It's currently not running in our district, no. Okay. So this is everything that is running, again, aside from that intermediate Scott Community College Spanish, which is dictated by Scott Community College. This is literally encompasses everything else that we offer that is not already funded from somewhere else.
And is this the best selection or the cheapest selection?
In all honest truth, it's the best. It is not the cheapest. It's what's best for kids. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Bree.
Obviously I go to West and I've taken Spanish 1, 2, 3, 4, Intermediate 1, 2, and I'm currently in AP. And I just have to say that the Vista Higher Learning textbook that I had for my dual credit class with Miss Burton over here was the best textbook I've ever seen. We had like real life Spanish speakers, Hispanic speakers, like videos. We had listening. Like it was way better than just like my teachers trying to find stuff on their own. It was just like all right there. It was in the textbook. There are questions go along with it, and we were able to get a deeper understanding of things just because it was already there and we could dive in deeper. I really think that this is sort of a no-brainer because it's helping the kids that want to achieve, and there's literally nothing left. Like there's no more workbooks in my AP class. The TAMAS textbook, we don't have enough for every student in my class. So when we go through there and try to use the textbook, we have to share. And that's an advanced class of kids that want to be there and want to learn. We don't have enough resources for everybody in my class to use them. So we can't even use the resource to the full extent for homework or something because not everybody has one.
I also took Spanish 1 through 4 and then the dual enrollment class. And these kids like Bree that are taking these classes, they want the best education they can get because they're not going to get that anywhere else. And they're not going to get it unless they have these top learning books. So I just feel like what you guys are doing, like that's what these students need to get where they want to be through all of their career choices.
I promise I didn't bribe them.
She was actually my first B in high school as my Spanish 1 teacher, so yeah, she definitely not bragged.
Sorry.
Director Potts.
Your cost figures, were those figures developed before or after it was decided not to have Spanish, French for 7th graders?
So we have gone back and forth with quotes. I think we ended up with 7 different quotes from this same vendor ordering these same things. This was based on a historical enrollment average, and this, I think we finalized this cost back in February. Mm-hmm. So
if we would decide to offer to 7th graders again, we would have the materials.
The exact same curriculum provides for Spanish 1, whether they take it in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade. Every student in Davenport gets the same Spanish 1 curriculum, and that's one of the ways those Spanish 1 kids get the high school credit, because it is the Spanish 1 curriculum regardless of where they take it or what grade they are.
Do you know if we're going to change that curriculum, that middle school curriculum, based on the conversation we had last 2 weeks ago?
Director Potts, if I could, if we would eventually change things.
I can't hear you with the thing.
My apologies. If we would eventually change things and use something and move forward because the French program is growing, then we would take into consideration the need to have another additional purchase. Right now, like Ashley said, we're just going based off historical data to make this initial.
It's disappointing.
Director Beck, do you have any questions?
My only question is, do they actually charge extra for instructor access to the resources, or is that just part of it?
No, instructor access is included, and actually, so the student access is a 7-year contract. We have that access for 7 years. I guess in reality, you can ask for whatever you want. They offer certain timeframes. The teacher access is unlimited. So right now, our French D'accord, it was a 2012 edition. It was a 2012 adoption. We had 6 years of access in our previous contract. Our teachers can still access the materials, even though students can't. Is that what your question was?
Yeah, because I teach college, and I'm like, I get access, and it goes forever, but and it doesn't cost anything.
Yep.
And so my other question was, is this this is a one-time like licensing fee? It doesn't matter how many students, correct?
It does matter how many students. And so we as Melissa and I as a team had to figure out so I have historical enrollment and averages for each year. The nice part about Vista though is we buy a certain number of licenses and we get a 10% slush of those licenses. So if we buy 2,000 licenses, we get 10% extra. And those licenses are fluid within. So just because I am asking for 1,500 or whatever Spanish 1, if we have 1,200 Spanish 1, but suddenly we need an extra 100 Spanish 4, they slide within that series.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
President Gosa, did you have any questions?
I do not. She covered all my questions during her presentation, so thank you for that.
Okay, I have one question. I thought you said you would split 4 or 2 books between 4 teachers?
4 levels. So textbooks are basically all encompassing, right? And their idea of Spanish 1 is not necessarily going to fit with where our students are at or how many instructional minutes we have, right? So we sat down when we were looking at books before we even asked, what we said is, how does this book work for us? Not necessarily how this book works in general, right? So we said, our Spanish 1 kids, where do they need to be by the end of Spanish 1? What does that mean in this book? So our teachers decided, looking at the amount of material in this book, if we want our kids to know X, Y, and Z, can this book work for Spanish 1 and Spanish 2? That's how we made that decision. And that's why Spanish 1 is split over Descubre 1 and 2, but French didn't look the same, right? So French has 3 textbooks split over 4 levels. We went on, again, this is a tool for us to help our kids achieve, right? So how does this tool work for us? Not, well, it's just Spanish 1. We got to do Spanish 1. That answers your question?
It did. Thank you. Anything additional? Director Poston?
Just for a little background for me, how many students will take all 4 years of French and all 4 years of Spanish?
So on average, we look at about 450. The average was somewhere between 440 to 470 students a year take French. Spanish, we have, with or without exploratory, is always kind of an interesting number, right? But realistically, we're right around 2,000 kids a year in a Spanish program. I am happy if you want to request, I can break down numbers as far as who drops, who takes all 4 years, who takes just the first 2. That kind of differs by building.
What was that number for French again?
French is somewhere around 450 kids a year.
Okay.
And that number, again, with German, kind of how it's not running, that may fluctuate a little bit. So we took a little bit of that into consideration when we looked at these numbers and said, kids who took German are going to take something else. So we have enough flex in there. So if we grew a little bit. Now, I'd love to say that I'm coming back to you in 2 years because we're going to have 5,000 more kids in our program. But reality of enrollment, we just took our best guess. Guess is probably a bad word.
Any additional questions? Okay, thank you all for an awesome presentation. Oh, item number 12.04, flex funding.
Kevin's going to walk us through this one.
Okay, first I'm going to take you back a little bit. If you remember, TJ and I had to go to in front of SBRC to do a workout plan with some of our categorical funds. These are 3 categorical funds that we are able to flex. Flex funding came in 3, 4, 5 years ago. So it hasn't been always a tool that the board has in their toolbox. But as part of our plan that the board approved was that in these 3 funds, if there were leftover funds, that our action was going to be flexing these funds. What does flexing these funds mean? It means that we are moving these funds out of these categorical reserves and we'd be moving them to unreserved. And it requires board action to do this. So tonight we're just showing you this, what it looks like. On the attachment, I'm also going to tell you what it doesn't do, but on the attachment you'll see, I know this is labeled TQPD and it was perfect for the presentation that just finished for you to see what we're doing. So the first one on here is teacher quality PD. Our plan was to have the TQPD committee commit the funds that they can do for this fiscal year. We didn't cut them off, but we said by April 1st, give us your plans for spending throughout the rest of the fiscal year. The remainder that's left was going to be flexed, is what we're going to request the board to have to be flexed. And you'll see here that the carryover was $1.5 million and with $1 million of new allocation. The TQPD, the teachers, the principals, they did a really good job in getting their spending to spend the things they needed to do this year. This includes a component of the world language textbook adoption for the professional development part of it. You'll see there that I'm estimating that we will have $1.9 million spent by the end of June, leaving a little over a $700,000 balance. So what we're asking for on this is to flex that, not to exceed that amount. The reason that we're doing it is so that the state doesn't come along and look at all of the PD dollars that are left over by all the schools across the state and sweep that back. What that would do, it would take authority away from us and it would take the cash away from us. So that's why they give us the flexing ability. What it doesn't do, it doesn't increase our authority. It does not increase our cash. It simply moves it from I'm going to use the term reserve fund to unreserved. I know they've changed the name of that, but that's the old language. So our request at the next meeting will be to flex not to exceed the $712,000. The same thing is happening in homeschool, except for there's a different set of circumstances that are happening. If you remember, I said that this flex funding ability, kind of the tool in your toolbox, hasn't been there very long. It's been a lot of years to get to $1 million carry forward when you're only getting funding in the $200,000 range. So this has been building for a very long time. You haven't had the ability to move the dollars. This is the first time I believe that we're asking the board to do this. You can see that we're spending a little over half of that per year. If we need to spend more in future years, we will. But you can see that we have a little over $1 million that we still have in that balance. Again, we want to flex this so we can clear our books and move it to our non-reserve fund balance. It'll clean that up so when it gets to the end of the year and they look at those, you'll see those being much closer to zero. The last one is a teacher development academy. This is a fund that doesn't exist anymore. It was just a balance that has been carried over from year to year. So we're just doing a cleanup from an accounting function as well, moving that to unreserved. But those are the 3 areas that we're looking at. I think the important thing is the first one. That's the one that everyone's focused on, but the others are just as important. I want to reemphasize that the TQPD committee did a really good job in trying to plan their spending. We did not cut them off, but they did an excellent job. Any questions?
Director Beck, you have any questions?
Yeah, I just have one, or two actually. So you said that if we don't spend the money, like in general across the state, there could be negative consequences. My question is, by moving these dollars, are we setting a precedent that might have negative consequences?
Actually, by not moving those, you will be setting a precedence because we told the school budget review committee that we will move these funds, and that's the action we took in January. So by
Right.
not doing this, we would be violating what we told them they would do.
Okay.
But the important thing is when we have the first one, the TQPD, we were told not to spend the funds. COVID hit. You can't do professional development when you're remote very well. So the reason that grew wasn't to anybody's fault. It's just a product of what it was. So I don't think going forward with good planning of spending those funds, it will have this problem.
Okay. And then my other question is, what amount of like a safety margin is built in? So like if you say there's an estimate of $712,000 available, and you tell people that, are you asking them to budget for a total of like 650 because people often come in over? Or, you know, what if somebody says, oh, this is great, I have this money, and they go over the budget that we've provided? Is it because it's unreserved, it doesn't matter?
Well, there's two things to that. First of all, with like TSS funds,
Uh-huh.
they are passing legislation to make it so that you can only carry over 5%. So our goal with all the categoricals would be a 5% goal.
Okay.
If they go over and there's something that happens and we want to do that, we will carry that negative amount over and we'll take it from next year's funds.
Okay. And then just to get to that flex estimate, you had to estimate expenditures for 22, and we're close enough that these are like pretty firm and confident.
Yes, we worked with the curriculum folks here at ASC. We worked with the teacher leadership, and we worked with the principals to give us by April 1 all of their estimates of what they're going to spend between now and the end of April or end of June. So everyone gave me their information, and so that's what the estimated expenditures came to. I rounded to the nearest 1,000.
All right. Thank you.
You bet.
President Gosa, did you have any questions?
Not at this time.
Looks like you knocked it out the park. Thank you, Kevin. Now the food and nutrition contract, is that Connie?
That's Connie. And so we have 5 contracts that we'd like to bring forth for discussion. So if the board has any questions on these contracts, we have Connie with us.
I trust that everyone has had time to read the information. Are there any questions for Connie? Director Potts?
Does the flavored milk include strawberry?
Because of supply chain issues, we haven't been able to offer strawberry milk consistently this school year. I know, and in fact, I think it was Garfield Elementary School gave me a petition about wanting strawberry milk, and I did send it to the milk vendor, and they did provide milk for that school for one day.
Any additional questions? Bree?
Does this, oh, it does say Papa John's. Okay, so I love pizza, but we have that almost every day. It's almost bad for my digestive system, so.
Due to the supply chain issues, we haven't been able to get other pizza that we normally serve throughout the school year. So if you've noticed, that hasn't been on the menu at all. And Papa John's was able to provide us pizza. And the Papa John's pizza is very comparable to price. So we thought we would go ahead with that. And actually, it has increased participation. So that was a positive thing. However, next school year, we will not continue having Papa John's pizza 4 days a week. It will be back to our regular twice a week in high schools, and we will keep it on once a week in intermediate schools.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Director Poston?
What's escalator pricing?
So we get charged with milk based on what the current market is happening.
Thank you, Connie. Are you all okay? Okay. We'll go to 12.06, Aruba Annual Maintenance Renewal.
Gary is with us tonight, so if board members have any questions on the Aruba Annual Maintenance Renewal, he's here to answer.
Any questions? Director Beck or President Gosa?
Not right now. Thank you.
Going?
Do you like the service they provide, and have you had any competition?
Aruba's really been a great company to work with. They've had consultants come down and help us understand the best uses for their products, and they've been there for us when we've needed them to be. They've made exceptional efforts to make sure that we're successful.
Director Poston?
How much of an increase is this over last year?
I'm sorry?
How much of an increase is this over last year?
This is the exact same annual renewal as last year.
Any additional questions? Okay, thank you very much, Gary.
The next one is also in Gary's.
Rock Valley Physical Therapy.
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry, the IJAG MOU.
Nope.
Where's?
Move backup
Well,
system
we're-
back up. Here we go.
Time to reboot. Okay, the move backup system to cloud. Any questions?
There actually is a physical location in Des Moines of this, right?
That's correct. There is.
Okay.
So
And how
two-
easy would it be to get that back then for you?
One of the nice factors of this particular backup situation is a company that's providing us a backup is providing it at such a discount. And then on top of that, we get the fact that we don't have to pay transport fees to get that back up there and back to us when we need to. It's part of our package for wide area network control. So,
And
it's
is
a
this district backing up, or like would every computer back up to it, or how does that?
basically, this is a backup of major systems, and also it's not specifically a backup of like teachers' materials because that's being held in Google Cloud space, and that has a time of safety in it. So that's where we're doing that. This is mostly for our major systems in the district.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
I have one.
Go ahead, Director Beck.
Sorry. And you might have just said this, Gary. I apologize, but how is it possible that they are so much less than the other options that you looked at per gig?
I think a lot of that comes from the fact that the transport fees and the additional fees are not included in the cost from IP Pathways because it's a service they offer as a part of the functions that we've already purchased for them next year. And so it made sense for us to look at them for these resources and we're going to get some savings out of it additionally. So it's a great opportunity.
Okay, and then this type of backup, this is like, is this the kind that protects us from ransomware attacks as well? Because it's on a cloud, but it's not here.
Yeah, the trick to beating ransomware is to make sure that you've got great backups so that you don't have to worry about it. You can pull the backups and replace the data files that have gone missing. The trick is always to have enough backups that, depending on when you find the ransomware and when it's set off, you can go back far enough to recreate the data at that point and move forward. So there's a potential loss in there no matter what. But usually it's much less if you got significant backup to cover that problem.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much, Gary.
Thank you.
Now we're at 12.08, IJAG MOU.
I'd be happy to answer any question that school board members have about this IJAG MOU. These are all continuations. We've made one small addition to it, expansion and programming at North to be 912. That's where the additional cost is. That's where the only change in this from the previous year.
Directors Gosa or Beck, any questions?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Moving right along, 12.10, Zello.
Rock Valley.
I am rushing this. Back up, 12.09, Rock Valley Physical Therapy for athletic training.
This is again just a reminder that these are all continuation of contracts, and so if the board has any questions about this contract, Willie and I will be happy to answer them the best that we can.
Okay, now we're at 12.10.
Zello is the required software that we utilize for our planning in our secondary schools that all students go through. Went through a very comprehensive adoption cycle 2 years ago, and this is the continuation of that.
Okay, thank you. Bree?
I just want to make sure this is the program that's like required by the state and there's like no other ones.
Director.
So 2 years ago, we looked at every option that was out there, and this was the best that we, okay.
Yep. Went through our comprehensive adoption cycle.
And
teachers, counselors.
When would we do it again? 5 years?
I'll have to get an answer for that.
Okay.
Great.
How have you seen it? Like, is it going how you hoped it would go? Like, are you seeing engagement in it a lot? Like, are you getting as much resistance of like getting kids to actually do Zello? Because I know like in our building there's like, and when it's like Zello week where we have to finish it, or the month you have to finish it, it's like do your Zello, do your Zello, do your Zello. Well, does that mean like people aren't doing it when they're supposed to? Do you know what I mean? Like, are they just not? Is it? I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
Yes, this is a task that is something that every school must go through. It's a requirement. So yes, we do have to send out reminders. Unlike you guys, not everybody does everything they're asked the first time they do it inside of a school. Yes, this is something that we are continually monitoring. It's a huge toll for our counselors to ensure that our students have a plan. That's essentially what this software does. One of the reasons why we chose this is it had multiple preparatory things inside of it, and so obviously adopting something during a pandemic when we were required to. We're optimistic at utilizing all the features that it has.
Any additional questions? Okay, we'll move on to 12.11. Terry on contract renewal, ERA asbestos management plan.
So, HERA is the Asbestos Hazard Emergency Response Act, and it is required by the state that we have somebody hired and contracted to do building inspections throughout our district. So, Terracon inspects all of our buildings, not every year, but on a rotation. So, and this is the second year of the contract that we started with them last year. They'll inspect 15 buildings or re-inspect 15 buildings that have been inspected in the past. They charge us for, if we're doing a small construction project, they show up and do a little small test to make sure there's no asbestos that's need to be abated in an area. And they'll also oversee some larger projects if we want to remove some asbestos. If we don't use those incidents or times where they come and do those inspections, they give us the money back. They don't charge us for it, but usually we have enough projects going on, we have to use up those fees or those times they come and do that. But every building has an asbestos management plan book in it, and it's kept by the custodian, and this is just abiding by that law.
Any questions? Directors Beck or President Gosa?
No.
Okay. Moving on to 12.12, policies for first discussion. There were quite a few there, and with you having read through each of them, were there any questions? Okay. Moving to 12.13 for the second discussions of policies. Was there anything different? All right. Right now, if there's any additional information that you need prior to the vote, please reach out to Superintendent Sneckloff to make sure that all of your questions or concerns have been properly addressed. Administrative reports?
None at this time.
Any board requests? Seeing as none, we'll move to board reflections. We'll start with Director Beck.
Well, it was the unveiling of the two pathways and the work from the long range for the facilities master planning committee. That was definitely a highlight, and I'm excited to see where that goes.
President Gosa.
One of my key takeaways is one of our student board members won the Dooley Scholarship. Awesome job again, and congratulations on that. And my other is the work on from the Long Range Facilities Plan Committee. It was nice to have them there, giving their perspectives to the board about the process and all that.
Director Gordon.
I was very impressed with the Long Range Facility Planning Committee, with how positive they seem about the entire process, and how I think that is going to be what we need to carry this process forward throughout the community. So that is my reflection.
Director Potts.
I agree. The long range facility presentation, that's the, as Liz says, the golden ticket. It's a Willy Wonka.
Director Klein-Jerome.
I also appreciated the long range facility, and I like the fact that we have that Friends of Davenport group, because I think it's a perspective that we aren't getting here. It's just one more outside group to give us their insight and where we go.
Director Poston.
just the same as everyone else has said, the Long Range Planning Facility Committee, and again, thank you for their dedication and hard work.
Superintendent Schneckloff?
Ditto.
I have a ditto as well, but I would also like to add, with all the information that was on the agenda this evening, how efficiently we got through the policies. There were quite a few there. And just having each one go over them in advance and to turn your questions in and get that information, that was really effective with the number of issues that we had. Now, which one of you would like to start? I'm sorry.
Okay, so I just want to echo everyone else for the Long Range Facilities Committee. They were obviously very prepared. I like seeing that. I think that all of their options sounded great. I like the fact that they were all a unified front in any way that they could be. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed the discussion with the curriculum materials for the world languages programs. The new option sounds like a great one. And I know we have some good testimonies for it. So I just, overall good.
I would just like to say that I appreciate that Durham, probably I'm saying that right, the bus people, acknowledged that they messed up and that mistakes happen, a lot of them, but they're an opportunity to grow. And Miss Schaefer, who presented the curriculum stuff, I love her, even though she gave me my first ever B, and she did not coach me to say that. She did an awesome job. I know she does so many things around the building, not just around West, because I'm so glad she stayed the whole time I was there, but she does so much, and it's just great to see her kind of shine, and was very prepared, and it was awesome. And I wish I was going to be in high school for these new textbooks, because those textbooks, the Vista Higher Learning, those are like really awesome sauce. You should look at them. And yeah.
I think all of the presentations were really clarifying, whether they were good or disappointing, but I think it was clarifying for everyone, and I'll just end it with the big props to the Long Range Facility Plan. So we can...
Okay, I would be remiss if I forgot to thank the administration for providing us a nice little meal prior to, in recognition of board. Well, we appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, Director Potts.
So move.
Where's our motion?
We're moving no place.
Okay. I officially call this Board of Directors meeting to a close. Thank you all.